Joining us. It is amazing to be back. Actually, both of us had a little bit of a weekend playing in nature.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so gorgeous.
Yeah, it was spectacular. Okay, so really quickly, I just want to introduce Alan Ogden, the Glutathione Authority. And the reason that he is here and he is the authority, the Glutathione Authority, is because he has an education and a degree in pharmacognosy medicine, which is really the understanding of how to create medicine from plants and from nature. So he has an amazing knowledge base. Now, on top of that, he has 40 plus years in the pharmacognosy industry or in the pharmacy industry, working every day dealing with people, helping them to deal with their health issues. He has degrees in geriatric medicine, pediatric medicine. He's worked in oncology, 10 plus years in oncology. He has a degree in energy medicine. He has 4 degrees in nutrition. And then, of course, he has 66 years of life experience. Now, I actually touched base on this when I was talking to him earlier today, that his passion to help people to feel better actually started when he was only about 5 years old. So this passion and the desire to help people and looking for resources to help people feel better has actually been a part of his life for the better part of 60 years. So I really want to just take a moment and honor and respect that and the amount of years that has gone into that, because I think a lot of us count the amount of years that we have an experience from the time that we actually got the education or the certification, and we don't actually count the amount of years that we've been alive and the intellectual property that we've developed up until the point when we did get the education that led us to get the education in the first place.
True.
So I just want to honor that and the fact that he's been on the planet for 66 years and we're getting almost 70 years of life experience speaking to us right now. So
thank you for that.
Thank you so much for joining us, Alan Ogden. And I personally am honored every time I get to sit next to you and to listen to you talk, because I learn every single time. So I am absolutely happy to hold space and to allow for you guys to be able to receive information from him as well.
Thank you, and it's always great to be with you. It was so incredible. Harmony talks about life experience, and I remember the very day I decided I was going to help people. It was the day my father was killed in a car accident, and I watched my mother just dissolve into this puddle of emotions, and then it took her a long time to recover, and I just did not want to see people suffer like that. So I made a decision as a 5-year-old kid that I was going to find ways so that people didn't have to suffer. Now, I didn't understand all the things my mom was suffering from. I just knew she was hurting very, very badly. And along with that, I've got to meet a lot of people, and one of those very, very special people is a person sitting beside me who was in a very tragic car accident, suffered emotionally and personally because of that, was separated from her child for a period of time because of the injury and because of her ability to just live life. And we got to meet up, and I was able to recommend some products for Harmony, and I watched this person literally change in front of me from someone who didn't know what to do, probably hour to hour, moment to moment almost, to a person who's taken pranic healing, emotion code, body code, become a certified clinical hypnotherapist, developed her own program, has literally in the phases of writing a book, just has really accomplished a lot, and that's just in a space of like 4 years. So it's like a university degree. Most people go to university for 4 years, but following your passion and allowing yourself to be led by that passion is such a cool thing. And one of the reasons we were late tonight is we have just a huge announcement we're going to make. We are going to talk about exosomes, which is a new topic. If you've never heard of exosomes, welcome to the club, because they're brand new. But we were waiting for some information tonight, and it came through. So the Nobel Prize in Medicine was just awarded to a group of individuals, and along with that, so the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given to people involved in the treatment of Alzheimer's and autism using hyperbaric oxygen and the unique ratio of amino acids that Harmony and I talk about practically every night that we do a show, that are in immunity, that we talk about. So it was not given out for an exogenous glutathione source. It was given out for actual amino acids that help the body to build its own glutathione. That's the Nobel Prize in Medicine. It was awarded just recently for the treatment of autism and Alzheimer's.
So liposomal glutathione, glutathione, just regular glutathione that you can get in the bottle, glutathione by IV. I'm listing as many as I can because people really identify glutathione by the unique source that has been given to them or told to them is the thing that they're supposed to take. And I know some of the terms that I'm using are redundant, but when I talk to people, they're like, oh, so glutathione that I get at the drugstore, or liposomal glutathione, or do you mean L-glutathione, or do you mean glutathione by IV, or do you mean... So all of those things are not what we're talking about.
That's correct. They're not what we're talking about. If it says glutathione on it, it's an exogenous source.
That means glutathione produced outside of the body. Let's just be clear.
Yeah, that's right. And our body has no receptor sites for glutathione made outside of our body. Our body has a very scripted, very genetically programmed way to produce glutathione, and it's done that since the beginning of time, and it has evolved over time. Our glutathione, as humans, has evolved with us as we have changed our environment and our food sources and our social structure. Our glutathione continues to evolve with us, so giving an external source of glutathione is redundant, and it does not help in that process at all. Anyway, so we were waiting for that word. It came down just, we were waiting, and it just came in an email to me confirming that the amino acids that we have talked about, that specific ratio of amino acids, is, along with hyperbaric oxygen, a Nobel Prize winner in the treatment of Alzheimer's and autism. So
what's really amazing for all of you women out there, because I know there's a lot of women who have joined the broadcast and are on here, there was actually a female doctor who had very few views on YouTube who was specifically speaking about using amino acid therapy to optimize glutathione to support autism and to be used as a treatment in autism. And I absolutely support any of the, yep, there you go, who are speaking out in support of that, because now those people and those women who are speaking out and saying that this is a good thing now have this to back them up. So it is so incredibly exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting. And actually, we will kind of work that into our topic tonight as we talk about exosomes. And exosomes are just a fabulous new marker in our body to tell us what stage we're at as far as our health is concerned. It's probably one of the best predictors of the future of our health that we can possibly measure. And the reason we didn't know about exosomes before is we had no technology literally to trace or track exosomes. So the idea for exosomes was around, it was part of my thesis years ago on how does your body know how to stay sick. I had no idea what I was talking about. Seriously, a thesis is you take a topic and then you try to find some supporting evidence that might make your idea sound credible and plausible and maybe testable. And we needed technology. We needed the ability to actually measure little flashes of light in the body in order to really discover exosomes. So now what exosomes are, you can look at exosomes up now, they are occurring in literature. They're little pieces of cell matter that's left over when a cell either replaces part of itself or an organ replaces part of itself and destroys some cells, or when a cell is replicating and there's little pieces left over. Now Harvey and I talked about senolytic or sensient cells on a GA event a while ago.
Zombie cells.
Zombie cells. They're zombie cells. So they were considered zombie cells, but now what actually has been discovered is they're not zombies. They actually contain RNA, DNA. They are able to transfer information and carry information in a very targeted way in our body. And this is what's incredible. We have, get ready to write this number down, you're going to need a huge piece of paper. We have 2,000 trillion exosomes. That's what our average is, 2,000 trillion. So if you measure that out, that's 2 quadrillion, which kind of sounds like the national debt, but it's getting close to that. But anyway, 2 quadrillion. Now, if the number of exosomes in our body starts to rise, literally what that means is our body is going into a disease state. Where does that play? What does that mean? Well, there's people out there that have now their DNA, and they have their DNA recorded, and they have probabilities on whether or not they might get a specific disease. For instance, the Angelina Jolie, everybody knows about that genetic marker for breast cancer because she made it very popular. In someone who has a predisposition, a genetic predisposition to the disease, now that we can measure exosomes, you can actually tell whether or not that person should be concerned or not about treatment. It's a huge thing in medicine, this finding about exosomes. So if your exosome level, let's say you have a genetic marker for some disease. Let's say you live in a family and everybody has Crohn's. Everybody around you has Crohn's disease. And so you think that, oh my gosh, because everybody has Crohn's disease, I'm likely to get Crohn's disease. And you get your DNA checked, and sure enough, you have a genetic predisposition. That does not mean you're going to get Crohn's disease. There's several factors that have to kick in order for that to happen. And where the information is going to be carried in your body to trigger that disease is by exosomes. So as long as the exosomes stay under control, then your risk factor is pretty much zero for you getting that disease.
Jenny said I have that BRCA2. What's that?
The genetic predisposition.
For Crohn's?
Cancer.
Oh, for cancer.
And so now we know, first of all, Jenny, 50% of the people who have the gene never get cancer. The 50% who do have several environmental factors in their life that are in common, and we could probably go through those. We might get to that. I'd like to just cover off exosomes first.
But I really appreciate what you were saying and want to revisit that just for a hot minute. Mm-hmm. What Alan is talking about is just because you have this in your DNA, your epigenetic, your exosomes, whatever it is that is dictating that you potentially could get this disease, it does not mean that you are going to manifest it. From my perspective in the work that I do, that is actually called a miasm. And this is Dr. Bradley Nelson's discovery. So he was the one, I don't know if he was the one who actually named it a miasm, it's possible, but it's in the body code program. So when I'm working with clients, we'll actually check to see if they have any, what they call hereditary diseases, and they're called miasms. And we check for those. And I always tell my clients that your physical body is an expression of your vibration, how your spirit is vibrating, right? So if you have miasms in your energy body, you can do the work to release that energy. We know that we are vibing energy. That is exactly what we are. So let's just play with the idea that you could release that energy and then not manifest those diseases that your ancestors had. I know this sounds a little bit woo juju, but you can absolutely look up the fact that there is science out there, including an amazing article that Alan sent me the other day, proving that the way that you vibe, your emotions create your physical reality. So what Alan is saying is not just hearsay. This is scientific proven fact now, that just because there is a hereditary disease in your line does not mean that now you have to get it or you're going to get it, and you better start doing all the things like chopping off your breasts and stuff to avoid getting it, okay? So I just want to support what Alan is saying so that you can feel empowered, and do more research to really educate yourself so you know what all of your options are before you go on a scarcity path that's making you feel like you're going to create this disease, because that's what happens a lot of the time. And what you focus on, you create. So if you're terrified that you're going to get this disease, guess what's going to happen? So just wanted to amplify what you said.
You want the like scientific terms? So a miasm comes from mesenchymal cells.
Mesenchymal cells.
Mesenchymals. They're little mesenchymals running around your body.
That is so cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I like that.
Mesenchymal.
I didn't even know that. I do this work all the time, but I don't know this.
Create a miasm. So what it is, a miasm is actually a probability. So we're dealing with probabilities of disease. Now we have a way, literally, for our body to report back to us, a scientifically proven way for our body to report back to us that if you have a miasm, you have these mesenchymal cells that are causing a miasm, it's just a potential.
I think they're cute.
Yeah.
I'm imagining cute little gremlins or something like that running around.
So here, mesenchymals. Here's the other end of the stick. There are in your tissues and organs, so your breasts, your cervix, your testes if you're a guy, your lungs, your brain. We hear a lot about glioblastoma, so the glial cells in our brain. There are particular cells that have a high propensity. As a matter of fact, they have a receptor site for information coming from an exosome. So an exosome, let's say an exosome is released by some bruise, some trauma to your leg. And so there's tissue damage and there's some exosomes released into the body. They're carrying information from that trauma that these other cells have a propensity to receive that information. So it's kind of like this. So it's kind of targeted email or targeted Facebook messaging or targeted messaging. We have these cells that have a message that can be read. And the message can be read one of two ways by our body. And it goes to these targeted cells. So there are cells in every sort of tissue and organ that have these receptor sites to receive the exosome and transcribe or read the information. Why is that important? Because you can change the information that the exosome is carrying in your body. This is why this is so important. You can now go and read about how they're using these exosomes for their experimenting in targeting specific diseases. So when somebody has, for instance, breast cancer or they have lung cancer, quite often that is not where the information occurred for that disease to start. The information came from some other trauma somewhere on an exosome and landed in one of these targeted cells, a cell that has a greater potential than other cells to become a mutant cell. All right, so we have them all throughout our body. So we have this really incredible communication system that goes beyond our nervous system. It goes literally beyond our hormones. It's a level of communication amongst ourselves that we did not know about before, but we alluded to it when we're talking about glutathione. 10% of your active glutathione is held in your cell, 90% is held elsewhere, and that is part of the internet of information, available information in your body. So you have this information. So the exosome cell carries only two types of information. Number one, for a cell to actually die in a specific way. So become a cancer cell and die, or become some other kind of cell and die, or it also carries the potential to tell that cell to repair, or that organ to repair, regrow, become healthy and new. So what a critical piece of information that we now have at our disposal to actually start targeting. So when you have somebody like Jenny who asks the question, I have this genetic expression, yes, what you can do is control the environment that your cells are going to be into, because we know, for instance, cancer, 96% of cancers have some kind of emotional activity at their basis. So long-term stress, long-term trauma, some severe trauma to an individual in our family, a very severe trauma or long-term stress plays a large role in the development of those cells. And now we know that it's these exosomes that are actually carrying the information around our body, and because we can measure those, now if anybody here has been treated for cancer, you know they're actually looking for markers. They'll test your markers and they'll say, oh, your markers are so-and-so, or they're up, they're down, your cancer markers are going up. This is a measure of the information, which is increasing the potential for that disease to develop. So what we want to do is decrease the potential. And how we do that, we can do it through nutrition, we can do it through management like one of Harmony's programs, through releasing the energy, releasing information that we don't want to carry in our body anymore. So there are ways that we can actually manage this. And so if you're a person who lived in a family that had a specific, so I'm one of those people. So when I grew up, I was told all the time, oh, those Ogden guys, you know, they all die of heart disease. Now, that was true. My uncles, with the exception of one, they died of cardiovascular disease. My lifestyle compared to my uncles is completely different. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do a lot of the things that they did, and I do stuff that they didn't do. I'm not sedentary. I had a workout this afternoon in a gym, worked my muscles, had a bike ride on Saturday for a couple hours in the park. I'm not my uncles in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even my brothers, for that matter, in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of me, the potential. So what I've done with those activities is reduce the potential for the development of that particular disease. Now, all of us have the potential. So all of us have exosomes. All of us have these targeted cells, these cells that are the ones who are going to determine the specific outcome or the progression of a disease in our body. If this sounds really complicated, I apologize, because it's really not. Just think of this. There's a mailbox in every sort of area of your body. There's a mailbox. And there's only a certain kind of letter that can get in that mailbox. And that's an exosome. So the exosome comes along and it can only go in that box. And in that box, it's going to say one of two things. It's either going to say, we're going to progress with the disease, or we're going to repair, renew, and regenerate and become healthy. That's the only two messages that exosomes carry. We have, once again, we have 2 quadrillion, 2,000 trillion of these cells in our body. It's a highly fine-tuned, balanced system, literally telling our body. Now, what is proposed by the scientists who are researching this is that exosomes, because they're light sensitive, so think about our atmosphere, our environment, think about what Harmony talks about in energy. Energy actually is measured in coulombs or in light, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about our body, and we're talking about essentially light receptors or light flashes in our body, and we're talking about our environment that is full of the same kind of thing. And so there's a method of communication, a very high level of method of communication between our environment and what goes on in our body. That's really what I want you to remember from this. your environment, the environment you place yourself in, is critical to the potential, to managing the potential for developing disease. That's really what I want. So,
the other thing that we really, I just want to quickly reiterate on that we've talked about before too, is that our body is constantly renewing itself, right? We have new skin every 30 days, and our whole body is brand new every 7 years. So this is really interesting because I was out on the island. I went to Vancouver Island for the weekend and was gallivanting out in the forest and all sorts of great stuff, and something prompted me to reach out to a girlfriend of mine, and she had an epilepsy episode. She had an extreme seizure, and she was panicking and freaking out that she was going to be diagnosed with epilepsy, even though she's 30 years old and she's never had a seizure in her whole entire life. This is the first time it's ever happened, and she told me that she hadn't slept over the last 4 days, and she just moved, and you and I both know that moving is one of the most stressful things that you can do because you're uprooting your whole life. And so it is very possible that her brain was actually quite inflamed as a result of everything that was going on, and it was literally just a one-off episode. And I completely honor where her head space was at in saying, I'm scared that I'm going to get a diagnosis for the rest of my life, that this is going to be the way it's going to be for the rest of my life. And I reminded her that we are vibing energy and that we absolutely have control of our state, and that she doesn't have to accept a diagnosis and end up on medication for the rest of her life. And this is what Alan was talking about, what we were talking about last week. You know, that it is very important when something happens that you really, really think very carefully about receiving a diagnosis and filling a prescription. I am not telling you not to, I'm not a doctor. But what Alan said last week about health episodes that we might experience, it took time to create the thing that you are experiencing that you don't like. So give yourself a little bit of time to heal and to bounce back, and honor the fact that your body is speaking to you and trying to tell you that what you're doing isn't working. So if you give yourself some time to heal, if you de-stress, if you rest, if you spend time in nature, if you alter your diet, if you do all the things that you know are going to be good for you, give yourself a little bit of space and time to heal and bounce back. Then you can go back and get some testing done and then see what the results are. But to get a test and automatically accept the results and go on medication for the rest of your life when you've had one episode of something happen that looks like it could be something, in my mind, seems a little bit ludicrous.
Yeah, well, actually, so that's a great segue into what I wanted to talk about.
Yay, good segue.
Good segue. So, the medical profession wants us to believe that a disease is this just tragic event that we had no part in, and so we have an episode. Like I had one in the summertime, or this girl had one. We have something that happens in our life, and physical symptoms appear, and the medical profession now wants to treat those symptoms for the rest of your life. And it might be a one-off. And I was grateful that the specialist that I went to actually said that right up front. He said, you know, this could be just a one-off. And I was like, yes, it is, because I know exactly. Now I know what caused it. I didn't finish my sentence because I was too excited about the next thing. Now we actually know disease is not an accident. It's not something that comes out of nowhere. It's not something that just blindsides you.
Nope.
We are in the process of time and life creating the atmosphere and environment where these pieces of DNA, RNA, these little tiny chunks of information, 2 quadrillion of them floating around our body, are getting a message And that message is being transcribed in our body to become ill. Now, people have said to me, when I've talked about this just briefly with people, they say, what about kids who get cancer when they're young? Or kids that are born with a specific condition? The potential was already there.
Yeah.
So think about this. If you have ever had a baby, you should never have a baby. You should never have a baby. It's literally impossible because you are carrying DNA in your body that is not your DNA. And our immune system literally should get rid of that DNA. That's its job. That's our immune system's job. Right? So how is it that you can take DNA from this person, they come together. We don't even know yet how a sperm actually gets inside an egg, but it happens. That egg gets planted in a womb and grows. Now, exosome science says to us, and immune science says to us, we should get rid of that. It's not our DNA. So what happens? How is it that women can carry children? Well, amazingly enough, the placenta has the ability to reject exosome information.
Whoa.
So it actually has the ability to tell the cells that are in your body that literally want to get rid of anything that is not your DNA. The placenta actually has the ability to shield the creation.
Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go.
That's right.
That is so
it's
incredible.
So incredible when you start to think about this on that kind of scale, right from the moment you become pregnant. There's cells that build up a defense. I'm going to say defense, and that's not correct. They have the ability to take the information and they transcribe it. They literally read that information in a completely different way. So rather than reading it saying, uh-oh, we've got to get rid of what's going on here, it actually transcribes that information. Even in people who have chronic illnesses, even people who have high levels of toxins in their body. Think about people who are substance abusers. They can still get pregnant and have children. It's such a fabulous miracle when you think about all the people who've been able to have children down through the ages, when literally we should not be able to carry somebody else's DNA in our body, except somehow the target cells in the placenta take that information, and it's like a different language to the placenta. They go, oh my gosh, we should open up this and pump the nutrition in here and feed this DNA that's growing. It's incredible. When I'm listening to this, I was listening to a lecture on this, like my mind just popped. Like it was just like boom. Like, of course, I don't really think about being pregnant much. But it's a big issue. Now, think about people literally who cannot. This is such a cool deal. Think about people who have difficulty. Harmony's talked about this. The number of women that are 30 or younger who cannot get pregnant. The very first thing we should do with those is measure their exosome level. Measure their exosome level. If they have if they have an increased level of exosomes, they're going to have a severely lowered potential to carry some other DNA in their body. So then we would know, okay, we've got this potential, we need to manage the exosome level, we literally need to bring the exosome level down in this person. And we can do that through essential fatty acids, optimizing glutathione, doing all sorts of stuff with nutrition. I didn't know back when I was doing my 4 years in pediatrics and we were taking care of moms and we had over 100 children that were born in that time, none of which were born, one of which was born with childhood asthma. All the other children were perfectly fine. And that one that was born with childhood asthma. Every child in that family had childhood asthma, and now we know why. Environmental conditions that led to increased potential for that disease to manifest itself. So a lady can't get pregnant. There's something now that we can measure, and literally in a tangible way, we can go to that problem and start literally talking about it. So maybe there's energetic factors. I know in Harmony, in her program, she talks with women who are having that challenge. There could be some subconscious reasons, some energy reasons that they're carrying that is not allowing their body to flow. We now know that is being transcribed, that information, that energy that they're carrying is being transcribed, and it's being carried by these exosomes around their body, and it literally will not allow, it will overwhelm the potential of having a child. Can I put it that way? It's really, it just overwhelms the potential. It's too great a potential in the other direction. So we have this balance now. So it's really, this is such cool science to me. Like Harmony said, I've been around the planet for coming on 67 years, and I'm just so excited because I remember reading 20 years ago that we were, as far as understanding the body, and so 20 years ago I was 47, as far as understanding the body, we were literally where vehicles were in the 1920s. We just sort of figured out the combustion engine. We were using leaded gasoline. There was lots of stuff going on, but wow, we had this really cool new thing.
So it's not as bad as the wind up.
They crank the car to get going. So we literally didn't know much about, but automobiles. We look at automobiles now that literally, for those of you who are really into electric vehicles, you might want to know that in Europe they now have solar-powered electric vehicles. You do not have to plug them into anywhere.
What?
And for those of you who are climate activists, please keep in mind that if all of us drove electric vehicles, the amount of electricity required to power those vehicles would create 5 times the CO2 in the atmosphere that fossil fuels do. So we really need an answer. We need an answer, and the answer is solar power. And there's a brand new company producing solar-powered vehicles in Europe. To me, that's just so exciting.
Rebecca, let me know when you're ready for a question.
I'm winding down here.
Okay, good. Because Rebecca said that she said if our only option is disease or repair and rejuvenate, do physicians test for these levels in the exosomes?
Well, they can't. We can test for markers in what it's evolved. It's a great question. Thank you for asking. So what we've evolved to at this point is we can test for markers. So if you have, let's say you have the symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis, what they'll do is they can now test for markers for a specific condition. So they will test for markers for chronic fatigue, for instance. You have to have 16 out of 18 markers. Or for rheumatoid arthritis, you need to have like 12 out of 14 of these markers that they're testing for. So we're finding ways to fine-tune this. On a scientific level, we can literally, we understand exosomes, we understand how many are in the body and the potential of that. And of course, medical science, what they want to do is treat symptoms. So they have symptomatically looked at diseases and went, okay, what's going on? What can we test in order to get a better diagnosis? And hopefully we can get a better treatment. But you have to let the symptoms appear first for that to happen. You can't, as far as I know, you can't go down to a lab right now and say, would you test my exosome level? Because there is no finely tuned way to do that. However, when a disease presents itself, along with that disease comes an increase in other markers that we can actually look for and test. So an increase in things like C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation, an increase in lipoproteins, an increase in cytokine value. We can certainly look for those, and we can see increases in those. And based on some of those things, we can make a better determination of what's going on in the body. In the treatment of cancer now, they are looking at those markers, and you'll see that in cancer now, using immunotherapy, there's treatment right now using targeted exosome type of therapy. In other words, they're taking bits of information from your body, they're taking information out of your body, and they're attaching it and injecting it into your body with information that allows your cells to regenerate, cancer cell to regenerate healthy, or literally to kill that cancer. Targeted cancer therapy, literally, it's going to kill a pancreatic cell, or it's going to kill a glial cell, or it's going to kill a liver cell. That's where all the research is going, the experimentation is going. From our level down here, come down to our level, because we're not doctors. I'm just a really excited scientist at the moment. And but from our level, what we can do is manage our environment. That's the best thing that we can do, is manage our environment. Learn things that stress us, learn the things that trigger us, and do our best to manage those things. Now, we're not going to get out of everything. We live life. I live in a big city. There's going to be traffic. There's going to be, today, there was a bridge closed. When there's a bridge closed here, I live basically on an island, almost. I live in a peninsula. There's no way for me, literally, that's not true. There's one way to get out of town that doesn't involve a bridge. So if there's a bridge closed, I'm in trouble, because there's one way to get out of town without a bridge. And then when I do get out of town, if I want to get back to anywhere else, I mean, like, I'm making a big loop around. So we're kind of in that realm right now, where we're really starting to understand, and gosh, there's a bridge out there. Can we repair that? Can we replace that? Or do we need to take it out and do something else? It's really exciting. I think this is so exciting. It's really exciting times. Anyway.
So Rebecca also said, that's huge. They want you on medication. I fight these Midwestern doctors. I refuse to allow things, but how do we win? I wanted to speak to that. There's actually a couple of comments that she made that I wanted to speak to. First and foremost, the comment or question, how do we win, is in all reality to educate yourself. So in my journey and in Alan's journey, both of us were at a place where in our physical challenges, they did not have the answers for what it was that we needed to heal. So both of us had to go on our own journey to figure out what it was that we needed. And lo and behold, we actually, of our own volition, before we even knew each other, came to the same conclusion. He came to that conclusion years before he met me, and then when I was on my healing journey, he helped me find what it was that I needed to heal. And that was just completely going on a journey, going, okay, I know that the doctors are just writing me prescriptions for the symptoms of my ailment, which at the time was a serious concussion and other issues. So I'm going to figure out what it is that my body doesn't have in order to be able to give it what it needs so that it can heal. Because I know my body wants to heal.
Yes.
And I was 33 at the time when I was in my car accident, so I was pretty young. So I knew that my body should be able to heal, but after a year and a half, I wasn't better. And that was insane. So clearly I was deficient in something, which enabled me to be able to figure that out. So how do we win? Educate yourself. Really educate yourself. And the thing that I would actually guide you to educate yourself in, and if there's something that Alan wants to add to this, I totally welcome it, of course. Educate yourself in what your body actually had in abundance when it was in its prime. And then figure out what it is that you need to do to optimize that now as you are aging. That has been my focus, is figuring out what it is that I need to give my body for it to be able to optimize what it needs to optimize so that I can look 30 at 40. That is right. But it's not just to look good, because I like looking fine, but I also like feeling 14. I was running around the forest like a child a couple of days ago, completely not feeling any aches and pains or anything, not having any problems at all in my mobility, in my energy or anything, and I just turned 40. Why? Because I give my body what it needs nutritionally and supplementary so that it is able to optimize its health on its own, because it wants to. It's incredible So just think about that and go on a little journey. And Rebecca, I just really wanted to speak to what you're saying because you've got a lot to say, and I really want to honor that because I know that you said that you've got a challenge that you feel like isn't being spoken to or honored by the doctors. And I have another client, same thing. She has a health issue and she's not getting a diagnosis, and you know, she's got some serious stuff going on and she doesn't know what to do. So I understand your challenge, and I know that it can be really frustrating. And she said, how do I change my brain from I had an event to the healing process, because this is something that I struggle with. So what I'm hearing you say is that you want to go from, you know, this happened to me to this happened for me, and really be able to understand that things actually happen for a reason, and it's for our healing and it's for our expansion. And I think that both Alan and I would say that the health challenges that both of us went through were for a darn good reason.
Yeah, for sure. It got me to start. So when I was first challenged, Rebecca, I ended up on 9 prescriptions because I was a pharmacist and I went to the doctor and, you know, I got 9 prescriptions, and then it wasn't doing the job. I was getting worse, so he wanted to send me to a psychiatric rheumatologist, which I said, oh, so you think I'm crazy and in pain? And I didn't want to go to a psychiatrist. It's not that I just didn't want that on my chart, because that stays on your chart forever, and then it influences how your treatment protocol goes. If something does happen to you, oh, this guy had to go see a psych person such and such a time. It never goes off your chart. So I didn't want that, so I refused to go. I said, no, I'm not going to go there. And besides, what's he going to do? He's going to give me 4 more meds. If I'm taking 9 and it's not doing the job. So that was my light bulb moment when I realized, and I said this to my doctor and he agreed. I said, so the situation that we've arrived at is what I know and what you know is not what we need to know, because we don't even know what we need to know. But the fact is, somebody knows something that we don't know, and my job as a person who is with this diagnosis and not supposed to even live to be 60, potentially, it was my job to find other people who had other information. The doctor wasn't going to go look for it. A doctor is, you know, when I'm around a group of doctors, one of the things that strikes me is these are highly, highly intelligent people. These people have to have 99% or better averages in school to get into med school. These are like some of the smartest people on the planet get into medicine, and then they get trained in a particular methodology, which is highly controlled. It's highly programmed. You can read all about it. It was passed in Congress in the 1940s. Canada adopted it. The Western world adopted it. What they can teach in medical school is highly controlled. The original medical text written by McGill University in 1944 literally has not changed hardly at all since it was written. So the methodology involves surgery, chemo, radiation, some interruptive, very intrusive type of treatment, or it involves a petrochemical type of drug. And so I wanted to find people who thought different than that, who were looking outside of that model. I was trained in it, my doctor was trained in it. I had to take a step. And believe me, it was a huge step for me, because I wanted to be a pharmacist all my life. Like, you asked me when I was 7 years old, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a pharmacist. Now, most kids at 7 can't pronounce that word, but I wanted to be a pharmacist. That's all I ever wanted to be. I didn't want to be a fireman. Well, there was a policeman in there for a couple of minutes, but, you know, I wanted to be a pharmacist, and I became a pharmacist. So that was me. I thought, so for me to actually have to step outside, look back, and go, gosh, I really don't know everything. And there's people that know stuff. Here's an incredible stat for you. In 1999, they held a symposium on natural health in Mexico City. The United States and Canada sent representatives from their particular regulatory agencies, Health Canada and the FDA, for the very first time in the early 1990s, culminating in this huge worldwide symposium in Mexico City in 1999. It was the very first time the FDA allowed themselves to be open to the idea that there was something outside of what it was they were doing. It was the very first time Health Canada did that. My friend, pharmacist, colleague that I graduated with, was working with Health Canada at the time, and she was blown away by the fact that there was actually researchers that weren't looking for medicine. They weren't looking for surgery. They weren't looking for that. They were looking for alternatives. They were looking for how does our body heal a cut? How does our body do these things? How does it know? How does it determine? Now we're getting a real good handle on where the information is coming from that's saying to our body, we're going to have this situation or we're going to have health. And that's a really awesome place to be in. But this has been a long journey. It's been lifelong for me. If I had not have had that life-altering brain infection, I would not be on this journey. I'd be retiring probably from handing out pills to people. And
that makes such a huge difference, and I completely and totally respect that. Really, I know that it feels like the health challenge that you're going through is happening to you. But if you ask the question, how is this happening for me? I absolutely promise you that you will find the answer. I asked that question to myself when I was in my car accident for about 2 years. So be patient for the answer. Sometimes it doesn't come overnight. And I had moved. I was a single mother when I was in the car accident. I was in a relationship with a loving man. I had created a career for myself. I had lost all of my friends. I was given a forced friendectomy, and I had a bunch of new friends and people around me. My whole life, basically what I needed was a whole life makeover. And I didn't realize that that was exactly what I needed until I looked around, and my whole life, literally my whole life, and including me, were completely different. And that was when I saw the answer. And the life that I was creating for myself was the life that I actually wanted. It was what I dreamt of creating, but what I was too afraid of creating on my own. Because I was a single mother of a preteen, and I was terrified of making him struggle to pursue my dreams. I didn't have any support, and so the dream was there, but I wasn't going to jump off the cliff and figure it out, because it was just safer just to stay working at the spas and being a skin therapist and taking care of people, because I had a secure paycheck and I was providing for my son. So maybe I'll just do it later when he's a little bit older or something, you know what I mean? And then I was in that major car accident, and it gave me the freedom to actually create a completely different life. And Alan's completely right. If neither of us had that intervention, where would we be right now?
Well, I think about even tonight's topic, like I would not be open to exosomes and talking to people about exosomes. And I don't think, if I would have not had I would have been a diehard, probably the best pharmacist, drug therapy expert you could find on the planet, because I throw my heart into stuff. And I want you to know that one of the solutions that I found for myself was throwing my heart into something. So I threw my heart into finding the answers that medicine didn't have. It became my first love, if you will. I wanted those answers. I wanted that information, and lo and behold, over the last basically 20 some years, I have met incredible people, I've been in incredible places, and then I've seen incredible things like the recovery that Harmony's experienced as well. And that's what really fuels me, is to see that and continue to see that, where I see people recover from cancer, see people recover from diseases like Alzheimer's, autism, etc., recover to the point of functionality and a change of life. That's what really fuels me. So I took that situation that was highly negative, and I made a new passion out of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made a new passion out of that. If you're talking to Bruce Lipton, he'll tell you, fall in love again. Fall in love with something. Fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with being healthy. Fall in love. Just remember the feeling of fall in love. Nothing else mattered. And if you fall in love with being healthy, fall in love with being this new person. I just fell in love with finding new information. So we wouldn't be sitting here tonight doing this had I not had that situation, and I wouldn't have had the experience of helping literally hundreds of thousands of people across the globe. I would have just been in my little community, done my thing, counted a few pills, and sold my store and retired.
That's the thing that makes a big, huge difference too, that I want to quickly speak to for Rebecca, who's going through the challenge, is there are absolutely people that you can look to that have walked the path and have been through what you've been through, maybe not the specific health issue, but have been through what you've been through and are out the other end and have created an expedited path that you can walk to get you to where you want to get to. I tripped around for years to get to where I am at psychologically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. I had to figure all that out on my own because all the models that were out there that I was seeing I didn't like and were limiting. And I just couldn't get in alignment with. So I created my own program that I now take people through that is an expedited path to getting to where you want to get to. So I didn't like what I saw out there, so I created my own thing. And Alan didn't like what he was seeing out there, so now he's doing his own thing and supporting people in expediting their path to health. So, you know, absolutely look out there and see what is out there when it comes to answers outside of the medical industry. Look at energy healing, look at naturopaths, look at holistic nutritionists, look at people like Alan that are doing what he's doing. There's all sorts of amazing modalities that are being played with on this planet today. There are so many people who are woken up, and we actually had the honor of being able to have this amazing woman who was doing something called pawpaw therapy for cancer. And she was probably one of the best guests that we had, and I would say probably the highest post reach we've ever had as well. There was like 25,000 people that watched us when she broadcasted, and she is this adorable little British woman that looks like she's, you know, she could be the next queen. She's so proper. Absolutely adore her. And she actually became passionate about cancer because she was losing coworkers to cancer. Not just cancer, but the same cancer. And she didn't want to be the next one to go. And so she went on her own journey to discover alternative therapies and then became a practitioner in the therapy, and it is literally all that she does. So there are so many incredible answers out there that you can find if you're just willing to look. She said, I'm 52-ish, I'm not looking forward to a lifectomy, but I'm open to the possibility. I tell the doctors that I'm not signed up for a lifetime of medicine. I'm signed up for finding what my body needs, modified diet, exercise, or supplements. Good for you for being empowered and for making that choice. I love lifectomy. I say friendectomy, but you're right, lifectomy. That's pretty much what both of us just had. It was a forced lifectomy, and we needed to create a whole new life for ourselves. And I wouldn't change it at all for a hot minute. So I honor your journey, and you know, if you have any questions, and I know that you're talking to Alan, but I'm here as well to answer questions for you and for all of you guys. We totally love and respect all of you where you are on your health journey and absolutely empathize with you. And we sit here, you know, where we are saying what we are because we have been through our own challenges. And we're out the other side, and we want to hold space for you guys and educate you guys so you feel empowered and like you have some answers, because I know what it's like to feel lost and trip around and not know where to go. So you can come here, and for anybody else that you feel is lost and is looking for some answers as well, you can totally welcome them to the Glutathione Authority Facebook page, because we do this every single week. If you haven't had a chance to like our page, please do so, absolutely, and you'll get notifications as to when we're going to be going live, and we always do posters in advance so you know we're going to be doing so. We also have a YouTube channel where we do post, and Alan and I were actually just talking about him doing some really cute little snippets here and there to help educate you guys with shorter videos and such as well. So please feel free to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that as well so that you can get more information, and also share those videos for anybody that's outside of your Facebook community. I really thank you so much, Lori Morgan. She said, thank you, Alan, for all of the research that you do for all of us. And I completely and totally I'm grateful to him and all of the time that he takes in researching. And you guys absolutely are getting a treat when you have somebody who is absolutely an expert in science and then somebody on the other side who's an expert in the energy healing world. The two of us create a beautiful holistic picture together, and we love coming together every week to educate you guys, which is why we'll be back again next week.
Next week, yeah.
Same time, same place. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you again next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.